And what do you think is the future of this sector? Because right now, when everything is going towards, when everyone has basically goals like net zero goals, sustainable mobility, sustainable shift. So, where is this sector going? And like currently, all the trucks that you have, they are powered on like diesel. So, like when they're, I want to know two things from you. When these vehicles are powered on diesel, is there still a way that you can try to incorporate an element of sustainability into it? And second is, where is the future of what? Where do you see truck netting going in the coming few years? Because every industry, every player has to contribute towards sustainability because there's what we are going.
Right. It's a beautiful question. Thank you for that. Definitely, I mean, like, there's a lot of scope. So, what we do, particularly in Trucknetic, with the entire ecosystem that we are building, with the route optimization, making the asset utilization, majorly one of the particular elements is, return load problem, which sort of causes us to kind of, lose a lot of money, which is around $45 billion every year. And at that point in time, the vehicle is moving but without freight, and that's where the name Trucknetic as well. Trucknetic means truck plus kinetic energy. Truck should always be in motion because that's the nature of the work that can be taken care of. A cab is more about, a car is rather, for a personal use, and it gives you comfort, but truck is for the movement. So what actually we are doing is we are reducing that deficit, where we're increasing the asset utilization by solving the problem of return load, so which helps us to reduce the wastage of miles without freight. And that's the major component through which we are able to kind of reduce the cost of, reduce the consumption of diesel. Today vehicular pollution constitute about 60%, and within the vehicular pollution ecosystem, 60 to 65% is contributed towards the commercial vehicles. And majorly these are, all different kind of trucks, from small Tata Aces to, trailers. So that's one thing that we are trying to do. Secondly, when it comes to intracity movements, we have been able to kind of, start off promoting a lot of, CNG fuel trucks. So we have kind of make it a mandate that we would not be working with diesel trucks. So, and since we have a network, so these fleet owners are sort of, getting the trucks modified, and so they are kind of slowly and gradually moving from diesel to CNG, which is a cleaner form of fuel as compared to diesel. And one of the things which we have recently started is Evolve. Evolve stands for, evolving from the conventional side of the trucks, the ones which are on diesel, to slowly and gradually moving towards the sustainable trucking ecosystem, wherein as of now it's India's first digital platform for EV trucks. So one of the problems that we have figured out, to make it more sustainable, specifically in trucking, you have to create an ecosystem, and that was missing. We have seen a lot of OEMs coming in who are manufacturing these commercial trucks specific for intracity use case, the smaller trucks. These are called high loaders, L3 to L5 and few other models. But the idea is, since the market is not ready yet, so they are acting as EVAS players. They're providing their services. Then, the common role of, a OEM, which is a manufacturer, where you just manufacture different kind of models and you sell it. But they have to give you the service as well, because the industry is not ready. So that's why we have hand-holded multiple stakeholders within the EV trucking ecosystem, from OEMs at one side, where we are helping them out to not just only sell their vehicles to small fleet owners, but also leasing their vehicles, at a greater capacity in our ecosystem of work, and also the existing ones which are on ground, increasing their asset utilization. So this way we are helping OEMs specifically in EV commercial truck space. Similarly, the EV SC and EVAS players, we're listing them out onto a platform where they can provide their services, in multitudes to the large network. Today we have most of the EV OEMs, even a few bigger OEMs which have started moving towards EV, is also trying to participate. So this way we can really spread out the word about commercial vehicles and increase the asset utilization. And the last segment, which is the most important one, is the small fleet owners. So currently the market in India is very unorganized and fragmented. 95% of the fleet owners own less than 3 trucks. So these guys are clueless as of now. What EV trucks would be, what's the future of it, what how we're gonna be using it, what kind of driver we're gonna be able to run that. So we also facilitate everything around that. We have a non-profit organization by the name of What the Truck. It's registered as Highway Heroes India Foundation, where we do kind of regular meetups with them. We help them out 360 degrees. So one of the deficits that we are helping out with them is the knowledge. So what we do is we take one OEM together with us and then make them understand everything about EV ecosystem. On the second front, we're helping them out with the financing channel, because there are not a lot of finances available to kind of fund EV vehicles particularly. And the third thing is we are giving them the business. So now they are comfortable, moving from their conventional vehicles slowly, as the evolve suggests, towards EV ecosystem. And this way, we are able to kind of increase the ecosystem, because ultimately the game, like for example, normal commercial vehicles or normal cab manufacturers, they sell it to the end customer, and for them the end customers are the small fleet owners. So once that cycle sort of stabilizes, then there'll be an influx of the trucking, EV trucks coming into the picture. Also, one of the things that we are doing is, so majorly the demand that is coming for EV trucks is from the B2B big players, like from Swiggy, Zomato, Zepto and stuff like that, whom we are working with as well. But what we are doing is, because in a B2C model, for ad hoc movements, we are working with individuals and small, medium enterprises as well. So now we are focusing on kind of, giving them the trucks as well. So the same truck, which is on road for the B2B movements, in those known operational hours of that B2B, we are placing the same truck to the B2C. And the good thing is that operational cost for an EV vehicle is very low, which goes up to 0.5 to 0.6 rupees per kilometer, as compared to CNG, which is around 1.4, to diesel, which goes up to 3.1 as well. So this way, because the B2C customer might not take it today on the basis of that they have some sort of say in the sustainability side of the things, but the price becomes an advantage for them. So this way we are able to kind of float, evolve into the market. But definitely there are a lot of challenges, not just in EV ecosystem, because right now if we talk about evolve, majorly most of the trucks which OEMs have manufactured are for the small haul movements, intracity or between two cities, in a span of 200-300 kilometers, because charging is an issue. Right now they can give you a range of 100 kilometers at max, the best models today available. It can increase up to 200-250 kilometers, but definitely the infrastructure is not ready for EV commercial trucks for long haul, the big fledged ones, because you would require a lot of charging stations. Battery swapping will not be a sort of a option in that case, I believe, because you need to have a lot of corridors, because like for example, if Kanyakumari to Kashmir, it's a fairly large belt, and there's a lot of movement like those. How many times a truck driver has to stop or have to change and swap the batteries? So this will be something that probably we have to think towards. Secondly, I think government is also kind of building some electric lanes, electric highways, but again that will not be able to kind of get into the smaller cities, smaller towns, smaller highways. Not like all the highways will be able to kind of go towards that. So things has to be looked from a broader angle. And I'm a big fan of Mr. Nitin Gadkari. So he has recently announced that hydrogen will be the future, specifically in commercial trucks, and I 100% echo with him. So I actually believe that this is a transition phase that we do have. And the best thing about India is we don't need to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't go that ways, right? So it's like 1, 4, 8, 10. So that's how we move and jump. So I particularly believe the transition that's gonna be happening. I think we might just do EV at the side, but at the same time we're gonna be picking up LNG, liquefied natural gas, which is the preferred choice of fuel for all the heavy duty trucks in countries like China, Japan, and they're really able to kind of get down their emission levels and stuff like that. So I think that will be something that we'll be able to do. And with and the good thing about LNG and the CNG is that we don't necessarily have to be dependent solely on external countries like Russia, or perhaps Middle East, or Iran and stuff like that. Because apart from definitely I think Reliance is a leader when it comes to procuring the natural gas, but also I mean like there are options like bio CNG, which can be made from farm produce agricultural waste, stubble, which we call parali, which is a problem. So there are a lot of other things that we can kind of club it. And I think government is doing really well by kind of making it sort of a mandate for the companies to adopt those practices, where they would not be able to avail subsidies even if they wouldn't use, like for example, bio CNG. So those are the things which will gonna help to transition. So I believe from diesel, CNG, LNG, definitely there will be a phase when EV will gonna be tried and tested. But EV again, so I think things would not completely change. Energy is something that you know the solid fuel side of the things, the conventional, the non-renewable will also be there, but definitely the percentage will gonna kind of change accordingly. So electricity will gonna be a preferred option for maybe some time, but along with it LNG adoption will gonna come in, and hydrogen will gonna start coming into the picture. But ultimately hydrogen is the one that will gonna kind of make the permanent solution for the heavy duty trucking industry. Because think about it, you get water as a byproduct, no emissions. I mean, like zero emissions. And that's where, Prime Minister Narendra Modi at COP26, when he announced net zero by 2070. So that's one of the things. And that's why even in the budget, 35,000 plus has been allocated towards the national hydrogen mission. And India wants to become the net exporter in next 5 to 10 years. And hydrogen is something that really, really would change the economies, not just definitely vehicles is number one, because that kind of not just increases our dependency on other countries for fuel or for crude, but also creates a lot of pollution. So it's a self-sustainable thing if we're going to start doing hydrogen. But apart from that, ammonia, steel, and a lot of other industries which are using different sort of hydrogens right now, from gray, blue, brown. So, and and I think because of those things which are going on around in the world, and the gas is becoming very expensive, after that tiff between Russia and Ukraine, I think sustainable future of hydrogen becomes less costly. And with more coming in, one more players coming in, with more funds coming in, more support from the government coming in, I believe it will gonna be transition to hydrogen
And
as
I
a
think
entire
there's
economy.
the deal because, like, right now, as we were talking about natural gas, because when I talk to these scientists who are working specifically in petroleum, they were also like that we have to reduce the dependency on natural gas as well because we are importing natural gas. And apart from that, that's why we need to build import substitutes and all these initiatives we're talking about, farm to fuel, and the one you were talking about. I feel that they will play a very important role. Like, recently Indian Oil actually established one of their first plants where from Lanzatech actually, which makes ethanol from steel mill emissions. And I think ethanol is again going to be a game changer. So what are your thoughts upon ethanol?
So Lanzatech is a beautiful company based out of America, and we have spoken to them recently as well. So yeah, so the plant has been put up in, I think,
Panipat,
Panipat.
yeah.
Yes. So ethanol is definitely something that will gonna be there for a long period of time. Again, as I was mentioning before, that nothing will be constant. Energy will always evolve according to more sustainable. So far we could see up to hydrogen, but you never know, right? So ethanol is a product which mixes with gasoline, and it reduces the carbon emission drastically because it functions exactly like gasoline. So the percentage of mix in gasoline with the ethanol was limited to 5% for many years, but then government thought that that's one of the things, because in West, in Europe, US, it's up to 40%. And that's where the government also started ramping up, the percentage mix from 5 to 10 to 20, and then ultimately it'll be 40. So 40% of ethanol blended with gasoline would be a game changer, because it will gonna not just decrease our dependency on the imports of the crude oil, but also the pollution level will drastically go down. So, when it comes to ethanol, a basic understanding, there are three kind of ethanols. It's called first generation, second generation, and third generation. First generation is where you use sugarcane as a product, and the byproduct would be molasses and bagasse, which is majorly used to make ethanol. But again, you are somewhere not able to utilize sugarcane to an extent, because otherwise it will gonna give you full sugar. So there the consumption of proper raw material happens, where there's a cost attached to it. The second kind of a what do you call as second generation is particularly cellulose, sawdust, bit of agriculture waste. So that's a second generation, which I believe the Panipat one that we were talking about as well is a second generation, where agriculture waste is utilized to kind of make ethanol. So ultimately, it's something that at times go to landfill, farmers burn it, as a stubble, and so on and so forth. So that is not sort of providing a lot of value, though people have started using it as a secondary and primary fuel. But the third thing is a game changer, which I believe government hasn't not explored it, but I think it will be a revolution, trapping the industrial gases, vehicular pollution, and then converting into ethanol, because it will be a circular economy. Because think about it, like we were thinking, brainstorming, at our office one day, that think about it, if we can kind of make a device, which is behind a vehicle, where we capture the emission, and with that they'll make the ethanol, and then they again put it back into the fuel tank along with the petrol. So nothing will gonna come out, and also you'll be making your product. So I mean, like, it was like a very rough conversation. I mean, like, just brainstorming on like things can happen, but definitely industrial gases can directly be trapped, and those vehicular pollution can be directly be trapped and then convert into ethanol. So that'll gonna give us a proper circular economy.
Is it happening somewhere in the world right
So
now?
things are started moving in Europe, particularly Germany, I'm aware of. Also in US, I think LanzaTech is also working towards it. But definitely in India, I think we can start doing it again, as we don't need to kind of focus on 1G and then 2G and 3G. We can move from 1G to 3G as well, because that's a big problem. Also, one of the things, I'm like, just for the audience, so recently I spoke to a company based out of Palo Alto, California, and they do have multiple offices in Europe. What they're doing beautifully, which I think one of the things, I think, to all the EV players and EV charging station players, they're using hydrogen, as a fuel to provide electricity, uh, rather than just electricity from the grid. So that's a beautiful thing. I mean, like, and it can be used because we already have a lot of charging infrastructure over here in the country. If we can use hydrogen as a fuel, rather than taking it from the grid, because one of the things which we have to understand, that electricity is not clean. Electricity comes from thermal coal. So here we are sort of banning coal to get used into industries because of the pollution, and then in the plants we are using, coal to kind of produce electricity, and using the same electricity. So we have to make sure that our electricity production is also using sustainable fuels, and this is one of the beautiful use cases of hydrogen.